This video is a bit of a departure from my normal videos, but it's still about our life as camp hosting, why we do what we do. Sorry, I did cut the top of my head off in the next video section, but I'm not going to redo it. It was hard enough to get through. This can be sensitive, emotional topic, but it was needed to be done for myself. And loser, get over it. You're pathetic. What is wrong with you? Man up. Why am I thinking this way? What is wrong with me? Some words and thoughts that I myself felt dealing with PTSD from an incident in my time in services in the military. I'm not going to get into the incident. It doesn't matter. Nor does it matter for anybody else that has dealt with it. Something else that I've been learning through therapy is you see other people that have gone through, it's weird. So I still say it this way, that they've gone through much worse, and it shouldn't be that bad for myself. Well, as a therapist says, basically the incident affects each person differently. So you need to kind of stop saying there's other people who've been through worse, because for what you went through was the worst. And that's a hard concept to grasp. I'll probably be dealing with that in my life. Another thing for me is this incident was over 3 decades ago. And since I started actually dealing with what I went through, which is only realistically seeking out help and really talking about it probably 5 years ago, maybe, if that. So after 30 plus years, it's really in the set in myself, and it's almost like natural, some of my ways and my thinking, and going through all the therapy, trying to, I don't know if I'm going to say unlearn, but how can I say this? It's taken that reality and given it a new viewpoint, knowing that, was it really my fault, the incident I went through? No, it's not. Do I still feel guilty? Yeah, I'm still dealing with that. Lots, and learning trigger points, that's a big deal too. Now, since I started going through therapy, I'm in another session. The first one was with my wife, Joanne, and she was like a supporter. It wasn't couples therapy, but I should say that I didn't tell my wife what had happened until about 10 years ago, and we've been together 25 years or so. So that was really tough. I felt like she didn't need to know. I'm the one that gave the oath to join the military, and it was my burden to put on my back, not someone else that didn't give the oath. In reality, she's my spouse. We both can handle burdens for each other, but it's just tough. But when I did tell her about 10 years ago, she was somewhat relieved on a lot of things, because it answered a lot of questions of my actions and some of the reasons why I am who I am. Not to say that it's all bad, but it helped out. And it started actually growing our relationship after 15 years together or so. I finally told her. But so, anyways, yeah, we did go through counseling for few months together with a therapist. And again, she was like my support. And it has improved our communication quite a bit. That was one of my goals that I wanted to do. And that's definitely helped. I feel like I can tell her some of the secrets of PTSD that I deal with. Now I'm going through one-on-one therapy, just started that. And who knows, I may need to continue it for the rest of my life. I don't know. I've learned a lot. I've learned that there is nothing wrong with you. It's just a reaction that happens to people when they have a PTSD moment. Some, especially some are smaller PTSD moments, but they're still all PTSD. I mean, you can get it from being in a car wreck, and now you're afraid to be in a car. It doesn't have to be military. This PTSD is not just military. But I can only talk about how it's affected me. There's probably a lot of people that never, well, not probably, I know there's a ton of people that never would have known that that's what I've been battling inside. Family members, friends, and associates. Just figure that's just me. Well, after going through this journey, and it is a journey, it's not a short walk, I realized that earlier when I didn't realize I was having a hard time from this incident. And going back, we're talking this incident was like in 1990. And, that's kind of the start of Desert Shield Storm. Again, I'm not going to talk about my incident, but after Desert Shield Storm, I feel that the military really started recognizing PTSD and, offering counseling right away and things like that. Before, you older veterans, they piss off, go away, be a man. When I was in it, there was no offering saying, hey, are you okay? This was a pretty big event. And it was just expected, hey, move on. That's part of your job. Thankfully, I know it's better out there. It can always get better, but it's majorly improved. So I didn't really recognize that that's what I was dealing with. I was having some issues. And, the earlier days I started with drinking a lot, drinking way too much. Looking back, I feel it was a coping issue, pretty sure. Relationships were tough. I associated with a lot of people, but I had and still deal with numbness to relationships, of that deep feeling, connection with other people, including my wife, which I'm still trying to get over that hurdle. But looking back, and I was married before, it didn't last long at all. And I realized that a big majority of it was my fault. I was not in a good situation to try to deal with someone I should have been much connected to. And didn't really know. I just thought, I don't know what the hell is wrong. Just me, whatever. Move along, trying to get through life. And I talk about a touchy subject, suicide. Most veterans know 22. They know that number. That's 22 veterans that commit suicide per month, nearly one a day. That's a terrible statistic. I've had thoughts in the past of, God, I don't need this life. And I just This isn't what I wanted it to be. I don't have the happiness. Now, did I have moments of happiness? Absolutely. Did I have some good times? Yes. But overall, I'm still dealing with this beast underneath, that I had to fight. And being in crowds, I was always hyper vigilant. Um, I couldn't help it. I had to keep watching around. I was a first responder in the service. I was a cop. And through all these years, I felt like I always had to help someone no matter what, which is a good thing. That's not necessarily a bad trait, but it left me in a situation after dealing with this that I had to fix everything. And you can't fix everything, nor should you. There's other people that may be better suited for the situation. And I don't need to get involved in everything. But it was a struggle. I did go to some country concerts and stuff in the early years and tried to put on a smile. And at some point, like I said, some of the smiles were genuine, but never did build that. I didn't feel that whole connection. There's just a big part of me that was missing, even in happiness. So, going through the years and bouncing around, and friends that I lost connection with. Yes, some of it was because I moved around, but was it really? Was it really because I moved, or is it because I always had a forget it then? I don't want to deal with it, and just walk away, basically. Well, that doesn't doesn't help for lasting relationships. I have a lot of regrets about some of the people that have passed now, and I don't get that chance back. And I regret that a bunch. There's nothing I can do to change that, but the other thing that my wife comments at, and that I realize, is I'm getting a lot of memories back of things that I don't remember, blocked out, whatever. And it's hit me pretty emotional at times when I think about these. I'm a man, but yeah, tears are flowing, and some regrets and stuff like that. But that's part of the healing process, I guess. And, it's tough. But 30 some years ago, and like I said, a lot of people don't even know, and only just a small percentage of people know what happened, and it doesn't matter. I don't need people to know the details. Even fellow veterans, I don't need to go into the details, nor do I want to. But I do want to share my thoughts and get out there that working on this, even that this many years later, is extremely beneficial and helpful, and can improve yourself and relationships around you. And I am at the point where I never told anyone about the PTSD. I never mentioned it. Now I'm not so afraid of saying, hey, I deal with PTSD. Situation. I'm trying to improve myself, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. This. I'm sure if you could go back in time, you wouldn't go through that situation. But life happens. There's things that happen in life, and it's out of your control, and that's how you deal with it. Anger was a big deal for me. Outbursts, and a lot of things that I'm just like, why am I so mad? I mean, I know I could, the situation might make me a little upset, but this bad, I shouldn't be this angry on this situation, and just kind of out of control. And again, for me, was walking out, saying, I'm gone. I don't need to deal with this, because I didn't want to deal with those feelings, nor did I understand some of those feelings. But again, it's getting better. Other things I'd like to cover is, I mentioned about the suicide, and um, even currently, there's been a couple times where I've thought that, it would be great if, the car, crashed into me and I didn't have to deal with this. Even recently, that I still get moments like that on bad days. Um, Not necessarily that I wanted to do suicide, but I would be okay with the fact if I just wasn't here anymore. And that's it's tough, and I'm trying to learn still how to control that, and get away from those thoughts. I've learned a lot of tools. It's just getting natural at implementing those tools. Some come easier than others for me, and still got more tools to learn. Um, More in depth is what we're working on kind of like trigger points and why do I feel this way? Why are my thoughts? It's it's going to be pretty tough. I think even tougher than the therapy I went through the first time with my wife. But I know it's going to be okay. And my huge supporter is my wife that helps me, and she keeps a very close eye on me. And that's the other thing I think is like, God, I don't want it. I don't need that to be her job, but as she's stated, it's not her job. But I'm her husband, and she wants to do that for me, and it's accepting that other people can help you. And I think talking about it is the best thing. It really do for me. Um, for me, I know a lot of people know I love the outdoors. I love to go hiking and stuff like that. Well, I am not. I am not religious at all. I plain and simply don't believe in it, and that's fine. If you do or don't, I don't care. That's your beliefs. I'm totally cool with it. But I am spiritual, and outdoors is a huge healing for me. As with, I find a lot of people, veterans or non-veterans, just outdoors is getting back to your ancestors' roots, I guess you would say. So hiking is in just out in the forest or sitting watching a river roll by is what clears my head. And I get on a long hike and I just listen to all the little sounds and birds, or taking the views of dew on a leaf, just concentrate on that stuff and forget about everything else. And it's a nice reprieve. So that's what I do, the outdoors. And going back to why we're campground host is such a healing process, because I'm outdoors a lot. And I do have access where it's a tough day or a tough moment and I need to just go in the camper and relax. And my wife knows when I need those points, and, checks on me, but lets me lay down in the bed for a while and take a breather, a timeout. Timeouts seem such a simple thing, these timeouts, but they really do help. But it is a long recovery. Like I said, it could go on for the rest of my life. I don't know. But I started pushing some of my boundaries. Recently went to a veterans gathering here in Spokane, because currently we're at our house for just another few days before we head out for several months of campground hosting, where we will not be near our home. But I went to a veterans gathering at dinner at a local restaurant, and it was apprehensive, even though I'm dealing with fellow veterans. Part of me is like, I'm dealing with people that understand. True, but I still have that feeling like, this guy had to endure much worse situation, and I feel, um, maybe I don't belong with that topic, but I will say that we went around the table and introduced ourselves, and I was like, I don't know, the seventh person or so, and I stood up and I said, I was in the Air Force, um, and I'm here because my therapist wants me to push boundaries. I myself um, wanted to do this to try to push my boundaries, and that's tough. And I had feedback later on the next day or so that there was some people that were really glad I said that, because that's why they were there too. So you guys out there dealing with, a PTSD situation, you're not alone. You're not alone. Um, and while yes, some of this needs to be done with yourself, the help out there is there's so much now. I we should all be ashamed how we treated veterans and people before, just in years ago. That what's wrong with you? Get over it. What a terrible thing. And again, 22. Those people unfortunately couldn't get the help they needed, and that's extremely sad. And that's just veterans. You wonder. There may be some statistic out there showing people dealing with PTSD in the past that did take their lives. I don't know, but there is the count on veterans for sure, and we got to bring those numbers down. And why have I chosen to do this talk? Is it is helpful for me. It's very helpful for me. But God, if I can just help one of you out there, it's such a great thing. One person helped. And I've had those moments when we were campground host at a certain park. There was a lady veteran that she was struggling. She was having a hard time. And she was in the campground, and she was in transition of a life change. And I talked to her quite a bit. And we had a moment that I think she was very grateful for. And I think I realized that, she's not alone. And that's great. On the back of our car, I have the 988 option 1 decal on there across the back window. For those that don't know that is the Veterans Crisis Line. If you know another veteran, or you're a veteran, most veterans know that 988 option 1 that's plastered everywhere anymore through any kind of VA associations. But if you're a family member, or you see another veteran out there and you're unaware of that, share it. It's a good first step into trying to talk you off that ledge. Battle another day. Try to get through this day. Try to get to those points where today was a good day. We'll see what tomorrow brings and try to deal with it. And again, myself, I have not so good days. A week or so ago, I had pretty much 2 weeks of just, they were tough. They were a lot tough. There was a lot of just life situations, but compounded with a few other things that were my trigger points. And I'm not going to say those 2 weeks weren't easy, but I've moved on and got through it with support and talking about my feelings. But I want you to know, out those you people out there that are dealing with this, that again, you're not alone. You're not alone. I don't care what the situation was. You don't need to talk about that situation to others. If you don't want to, don't. But you can talk about trigger points, or share with people that, hey, this is tough for me, and this is, you don't even have to go into the details of why, but just say, this is a tough situation with what I'm dealing with. Something that's great for me is I've had hearing loss since I was in the military, and I finally got hearing aids through the VA, and wow, I think that's will help some of my trigger points, because when I get in a crowd, I can't hear shit. Well, that brings up isolation, anxiety comes way up, because I can't. I'm still on guard, and I don't know that I'll ever not be on guard. But when I couldn't hear very well, that makes it way worse. So, pretty excited that a tool for my hearing could be helpful for that too. And it's just one step at a time. But I know this is a little bit of a departure from, my normal videos on my channel here, but as mentioned in another video, this channel is about our life as campground host and just what we do. Well, I'm a veteran, and I do deal with PTSD. That's part of our life, and a big part of why we do what we do, because it gets me out in nature. Losing that money working is it's a pretty hard hit. It really is. It's can be pretty tough financially at times, but it beats the alternative, because there was a time that my wife and I, we weren't sure if I was going to be around, and I want to be around for my wife, my kids, my grandkids, and my friends. And making it a goal to get this word out, I think, is very helpful. Like, again, I said, I just can't stress how this is helping me talk about this. And you're not alone. You're not alone. With that, I'm going to wish you all, hope things go very well for you today, and get through today. Tomorrow will come. Take it one day at a time. You all take care.